Do you want to know what is great for the summertime? A romance. A steaming hot summer romance. It's too bad that I stopped liking romance a long time ago. What happens when you fall out of love with romance? I spent many a day in my teenage years curled up with a paperback and a swashbuckling hero or a Duke of Claymore while they fell in love with a smart, yet shy, yet funny, yet feisty young heroine. And after I read about, 3 million of those, something happened. Will they, won't they? And the glittering world of the hot ton just didn't do it for me anymore. And then I became an adult. And the romantic books that got recommended to me were a very basic, sometimes bad story that was just there to cover up the endless scenes of spice, varying degrees of spiciness, depending on what you like. And as I got into the online world, it seemed like that was really the kind of romance that existed out there. And I just wasn't interested. But then I fell for the same thing I always fall for, because if there's one thing that I've had a romance with for my entire life, it's a bookstore. And there was a romance bookstore that was open here. I have to tell you, there's, I can count on one hand how many bookstores there are in South Florida. So I said, I have to go to this bookstore and see if there are things there for me. Because if I feel like there are no romance books that I know about that are for me, I should go to the place that has all the romance books. Because if there is a single one for me, it has to be there. So I bought a bunch. I went twice. But no, it's not because I'm like a reformed romance girly. It's because they had one location and then they moved and they had another grand opening. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to go again because the stores themselves are beautiful. The job they have done with the Steamy Lit Bookstore, making it a romance, cozy, beautiful, girlish space, a place to fall in love, if you will. Perfection. 10 out of 10. Go there. If you're down here, go there right now, immediately. When I walked in, I knew I was in the right place because there were all these categories and groups of books that I didn't think of. There were different representations and there were different spice levels. There were different categories that I didn't know were categories. And they had a little tiny shelf in the back that was like regular books in case, you stumbled in there by accident and you needed something normal. If you are a romance person and you want it, they got it. So I picked a bunch of stuff that I thought would speak to me. And I have, by this point, read them all. This is a book haul where the books have actually been read. So I can tell you a little bit more than I normally would about books in a haul. How exciting is that? A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Ana María. I actually got as a blind date with a book from there. It's a story of a spicy, successful Dominicana that goes to London to do some business in 1889. It's not normal for ladies to be doing business. There's a bit of a struggle with what shall we call colonialism. However, she meets a James Evanston Sinclair. Aging Sinsu, they fall in love. This is much more in line with some of the older books that I had read from back in the day with the dukes and the ladies. The thing is, there's a little bit of being a little too aware of the colonized relationship. And I don't know if you can really have romance in that setting. I don't find it to be romantic. I would have preferred her to fall in love with a Dominican aristocrat. We didn't really need to go to London for that. He's Scottish, but they meet in London. But I love that they're acknowledging that there were Caribbean peoples in London. So if that's your drive, this one's for you. 7 Year Slip I saw everywhere. I didn't get it for a really long time. And then by the 700th time that I saw it, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna try it out. There's a plot twist. It surprises you. It's cuter than I thought it was going to be. The only thing that I would say is a negative about this kind of romance is that they fell in love immediately, or there was this, I'm not like this with other people, but I am like this with you immediately. And I don't know if I've grown out of that or if that just feels a little less normal nowadays, because this is set in, it starts in like present day New York. Is normal feeling perhaps if it's like 1642 and your father's forcing you to marry this person, but like running into a stranger and feeling that way a day and a half later, I don't even know if it was a full day, seems perilous to me. She was imperiling herself. But if you like that kind of instant love, it's a good one for you. Miss Emily Henry, I had been seeing and hearing about for a million years. And I thought it was going to be another TikTok-y book that I really wasn't going to like. I was so pleasantly surprised by this. I've read a couple of Emily Henry's by now. This is the one that I really like. The banter between the two characters who meet at a kind of seaside place while they are both trying to get past writer's block. Just very well done. She does, even in the books that I didn't love of hers, she does dialogue really well. I think that's her strong suit. So if you like characters, if you're of like the Dawson's Creek era and you like the characters who are like back and forth, check this one out. Immortal is a fantasy romance. It involves dynastic issues and gods getting involved with mortals. The world building is fantastic. The dialogue on this one is not my favorite, but it gets extra points for being a love not set in London. So if you like that, check it out. Bookshops Bonedust is an orc swashbuckling adventure. It's cozy. It's not technically platonic, even though there is a lot of friendship love in this that I really love. I think that was my favorite of everything. But it's like a couple of smooches, some hand holding. It's really sweet. The writing is really good. It's cute. And it's really low stakes. It's one of those, for me, low stakes, like unplugging your brain type of book. It isn't like a badly written book. It's something that is cute and simple, but it's very well written. I feel like when a story is simpler, it has to be really well written, or else you just gotta throw it away. And this is one of those books. Ana María and the Fox is a Mexican heiress that goes to London and falls in love. She falls in love with a person of color though, so there's an improvement there. And I like this one definitely more than a Caribbean Heiress in Paris. I think what I figured out is that old Victorian equation doesn't do it for me anymore, no matter who it is, no matter what they look like. I think I've just read too many of them. And then we have The Bridge Kingdom. This one I would say is the most... Oh, look, I found a sticker that I bought there. I always find stuff inside of my books. This one I feel like is much more the usual romance of what I used to read, in the sense of there's quite a bit of spice, but it's very well done. It doesn't overwhelm the story, and the story itself is interesting. This is mostly what I would like romance to be if I'm going to read romance. This is a warrior princess in a fantasy kingdom who falls in love with her enemy. The opening chapter, very, very well done. I read another series by this author because of this, and I think it's Vikings. And I think if I'm going to do romance, then this is the kind of romance that I'm going to pick up. What I realized from this haul and from my visits to Steamy Lit is that I will always love a bookstore. I will find something to buy in a bookstore of any kind. But I think that romance is, as a category, as a book category, is just a kind of once in a while thing for me. And it's got to be either really, really well written and cute, or it scratches a little romantic, spicy itch that I have from time to time. But by far, I think it's still going to be the smallest category of the books that I read. Maybe tied somewhere with horror. Maybe it's a little above horror, but I would for sure do thrillers before I would pick up a romance. All right, that's it for this haul. The next video is either me going to a bookstore, or me reading some books, or me watching a movie about some books. Until next time, book friends, I hope you're falling in love with everything that you read. Bye.